A bald man dressed in red. Oh, creepy.
Oh, it's you again. Come on in.
No Nathan today?
Nah, haven't seen Nate all day, probably out in the woods.
Looks like Nathan knows the strange red man. I need to talk to him about this. That must be Lily. She seems very happy looking up at the red man. Is this how Nathan still sees himself? As a little boy? A bald man. I had a few more questions, Sue.
Shoot.
I don't need to ask her about that. Do you know who the red man is?
Oh, that's just Nate's imaginary friend. The red man has been around ever since my boy was little.
I see. So there's no actual person in town he could be referring to?
No way! According to Nathan, the red man hasn't changed in 30 years.
The red man actually exists. I met him in the forest.
What? That's crazy talk. Stop kidding around. I am not in the mood.
Do you know anything about this flower?
Sure. Smoked it a few times back in the day, before it was endangered and all.
Yeah? What was it like?
Similar to pot, but stronger and more unpredictable. Never touched the stuff after I got pregnant with Lily.
All right. Sue, what do you see in this picture?
My God, that looks like one of Lily's paintings.
Wow, really? Can you describe it?
It was a nighttime scene, just like the photo, but the lights were floating above the lake. There was a pale hand reaching up from beneath the surface trying to touch them. The forest in the background was on fire, making the sky purple and red. There were probably other details too, but that's what I can remember.
Sounds captivating. Wish I could have seen it. No reason. Do you know what this...
Well, that's a bit of a weird question.
I think I'm gonna head off now.
Sure thing, little cat. Come back anytime.
I don't want to burn that. Oh. Mind if we...
Not at all.
I don't see a reason to ask her about... See you later, Gramps.
Take care, dear.
Hey, Lenny.
Hello, Kathy. What's up?
Nah, I don't want. Nah. Do you know anything about a weird bald guy dressed in red around here?
You're joking, right?
Oh, never mind. Hey, Lenny, do you recognize this flower?
Yeah, I accidentally inhaled pollen from one of them when I was a kid. I remember being sick and delirious for days.
Scary. Where did you come across this flower?
Somewhere in Conwell Woods. Not sure where exactly.
All right. Do you know what this is?
I have no idea. Looks creepy, whatever it is. Where did you get it?
Grandpa had it hidden away in the attic.
Probably for a good reason, then. Be careful out there.
Well, gotta go.
See ya!
Hello, Sheriff. Mine. That's all for now.
Good.
Hello, I don't need to ask. Do you know anything about a weird bald guy dressed in red around here?
What the hell are you talking about?
Never mind. I don't want to. Do you know what this is?
Ah, it's just some kids playing pranks with flashlights.
Do you recognize this flower?
Matter of fact, I do. It's a local endangered plant with mild narcotic properties.
Yeah? Have you come across any users in the area?
Sure, but it's a bit tricky to do anything about it. Using it as a substance is technically illegal.
Ah, so the illegal part is picking it in the first place.
Yes, knowingly picking the flower is a crime, according to the Endangered Species Act of 1973.
Gotcha, thanks. That's all for now.
Good. How's the paperwork coming along, lady?
Okay, I guess. Maybe halfway through.
A jail cell. Looks cramped. Huh, very funny. If I ever feel the urge to... It's endangered. I'm not gonna take... I don't see how those things work together. Yep, it's definitely the right flower. A computer. They like... No thanks. Women's... Uncomfortable, hard plastic chairs. Rows and columns of files. Probably... Was expecting plastic, but this looks like a real... A calendar from 1991. Guess they really liked that year. Employee of the Month, Carlita Mendez. calendar from 1991. No reason to go in there. The grave is brimming with flowers. I'm gonna find out what happened to you, Grandpa. I promise. It's labeled boot. Nah, I don't see any reason.
It's all right, Claude.
Understood, sir.
So, you managed to find me.
I did.
Well, let's get this over with then. How do you want your pictures? Shall I get some tubes to fill my face with? Will that suffice for your front page?
I'm no journalist. Well, not yet anyway.
Ah, she's but a cub. So, you're hoping for your big break. Surely this must be worth an internship at one of the big papers. Do you want me to call Thompson at the Times and get it over with? I still play golf with him every once in a while.
You're assuming a lot, Mr. Wade.
Guilty as charged. It's a stance I find remarkably effective for a man with little time and a tendency to be correct.
You might want to rethink that attitude. I have a history of surprising people.
Is that so? Very well, I'll indulge you for now. Who are you then?
I'm Kathy Rain. Joseph was my grandfather.
Now remember. You were at the funeral.
I was.
You were late.
I needed my morning smoke. Besides, it's not like Grandpa was going anywhere.
Oh, just look at her, Claude. She's absolutely fearless. That's Joseph's blood running through her veins.
She certainly has a smart mouth, sir.
I must say, you have me intrigued, Kathy. What can this old man help you with?
Do you know anything about what happened to my grandfather in '81?
I wish I did, Kathy. You must know I did everything in my power to help. How do you think Mary Elizabeth could afford all that expensive treatment? MRIs, neurologists, say what you will about Joseph. But he was never rich.
Strange. Grandma never mentioned that to me.
She's just too proud. At first she refused. She was convinced that I had an agenda, that there were strings attached.
And were there?
Don't be silly. Despite all that had happened, I still loved Joseph dearly. I wanted to help. People from places like this have a deeply rooted mistrust in the rich, passed on for generations. In her eyes, I had become one of them.
So that's all you know about the whole affair?
Are you implying that there's more to know? I left the diagnosis to the professionals. Mrs. Rain accepted the health care, but asked me to stay out of everything else. So I did.
I see. What can you tell me about your friendship with Grandpa?
Joseph was the best friend I ever had. We grew up together, married our high school sweethearts together, went to war together. I can't even begin to count the number of times he's saved my life. I repaid the favor once or twice, but he came up ahead, no doubt.
So when did you two lose touch? I heard that something happened between you and him. What was it?
The truth is, Brian Rain happened. Sharon Evans happened.
My parents?
Yes. They ruined everything with their vile, destructive behavior. I couldn't have that around my daughter or my newborn grandson. Joseph was naive. He believed that anyone could be helped, that anyone could be reasoned with, given a chance. He was just too good, bless him. He should have been harder on Brian, more strict. So our family started drifting apart. Eventually my company grew much too large for this little town, and we moved on. Not long after that, your grandfather ended up in that wheelchair. That marked the end of our friendship, for obvious reasons.
Do you recognize the call sign Cocky?
Would be strange if I didn't, since I was the one who coined it. It belongs to a fellow named Jimmy Cochran. He was a coward, really. The nickname is somewhat of a bad joke.
Perfect. Thanks. You bought a number of paintings by Lily Myers. Why?
I'm known to dabble in art from time to time. Martha, my wife at the time, was enamored with the paintings. I believe she first saw them at the high school which the Myers girl attended. Anyway, after the poor girl killed herself, I bought the paintings speculatively. When a young artist with any talent to speak of commits suicide, it can be a wet dream of certain connoisseurs. Shortly after procuring the art, I had it valued by an expert who determined that the value was 3 times the amount I bought it for. Today, I'm sure I would have made my money back tenfold or more if it wasn't for the art theft.
What art theft?
There was a burglary at the mansion I used to own here in town. It was all over the local news at the time.
Well, shit.
Eloquently put.
Tell me about Jimmy Cochran. Is he still alive?
In a literal sense. He's been held in a mental institution for years.
Let me guess. Since '81?
Either 82 or 83. I'm fairly certain it was early 83.
Do you remember the name of the institution?
Something starting with an E. Emerson, Everton, or similar.
Ingstrom? Ingstrom Psychiatric Hospital?
Yes, that's the one. You know the place, Kathy.
I do. My mother is in there. Sharon Evans? I had her committed about a year ago.
I see. It must have taken a lot of courage to do that, Kathy. Mothers have a lot of power over us, more than most of us care to admit.
I guess so. Do you know why Jimmy ended up in there?
Some obsessive-compulsive syndrome. He became fixated with circles and started hurting himself, trying to scratch the circles out of his head.
Creepy. I wonder what set him off. I think I'll check the place out tomorrow. Too late to head back to the city now. Can you tell me about the art theft?
Well, somebody broke in, stole the paintings, and got out. Fairly clumsy job. Lots of broken windows. The strangest thing was that I had a Monet, a Rembrandt, and 2 paintings by Picasso, untouched. But every single painting by an unknown local artist, gone.
That can't be a coincidence.
Agreed. Somebody wanted those paintings badly.
I assume there was an investigation.
Yes, Sheriff Truman came by with his deputy a few hours later, but they didn't have much luck. They found a few hairs, which turned out to be from Ruffles, the family dog.
Some stunning police work right there.
Indeed. There was a single witness, though, who said he could make out multiple burglars leaving the scene of the crime, but nothing more than that.
So, I take it the case was closed?
Yes. I honestly didn't care much one way or the other, given the fact that my most expensive pieces were safe and sound.
I think I'll have a chat with the sheriff about the matter, if that's okay with you.
Certainly. I'll call ahead and instruct him to give you everything you need.
That'd be great. Thanks, Charles.
Anytime. But I'm curious, what's your interest in the paintings?
I've learned that my grandfather went to Sue and asked to see them, right before he had his injury.
Is that so? Strange.
What can you tell me about the Church of the Holy Trinity?
They seem like any other church to me. But then again, I'm not their usual clientele. Weddings, baptisms, and funerals are just about what I can muster. And I always leave early.
I don't need to ask him about that. I don't need to. He's being cooperative at the moment. I shouldn't push my luck. I don't need to. Do you recognize this, Charles?
Of course. Your grandfather, me, Jimmy Cochran, taken shortly before we went to the war.
You guys look like you just won the lottery or something.
Indeed. We were mere children, with no concept of what we were getting into.
Do you know what?
You must be truly desperate if you ask random people a question like that.
I don't. What do you see in this picture, Charles?
Fireflies would be my best guess. They can grow terribly large around these parts.
Do you know what this is?
A flower? Why don't you consult a botanist instead of bothering me with this nonsense?
Thanks, Charles. That's all I need for now.
You're welcome, Kathy. Come back anytime.
A private phone. Wade must get special privileges here. He looks weak, but his eyes are sharp. Just some boring landscape paintings. Looks like Wade brought some of his old tombs with him. Just some boring landscape paintings. I'd rather not. He'd crush me like a twig. That guy is huge. I wonder how many cows he eats per day.